So you want to start your own business. You'd like to do a startup, but you're not quite sure what business to choose. Well, I have 7 criteria that I'd like to share with you that'll help give your business a chance to be successful and profitable and possibly even a unicorn someday. And stay to the end because I have an example startup that I think would be a fantastic business to start. And I'm going to apply my 7 criteria to this example business. Hi, my name is Carr Ferrell. I'm a Silicon Valley patent attorney and a longtime investor in the Silicon Valley Band of Angels. Welcome back to my channel. So when deciding what business to start, here's 7 criteria that you should strongly consider before getting started. Number 1, and this is the biggest mistake that most startups make. You want to find a problem that is in search of a solution and not a solution that's in search of a problem. And this especially applies to tech startups. So often we see creative engineers grab onto a new technology and create a solution and then go searching for a problem. And this so often is a failure. It's important that before you start inventing, before you start creating solutions, to find a problem that people really have. Find a problem that people are willing to pay for. Start with a problem first and find a solution. It really is a much harder problem to first create a solution and then go convince people that they really have the problem that your solution will solve. For example, we really don't need to put a microprocessor inside of a golf club, or build augmented reality goggles for competitive swimmers, or put an LCD display on the door of a refrigerator so we don't have to open the door to look inside. Hey, most people like opening the door to look inside. So just because we can build a solution, it doesn't mean that people have a real problem. And we always want to start with the problem first. And the second criteria is it should be a problem that lots of people have. We want to make it easy to find those people, easy to market those people. We don't want to have to go looking for needles in the haystack to make a sales pitch. So find problems that need solving and find problems that lots of people have. Okay, criteria number 3. The solution should be valuable relative to the problem. Buying the solution should be a no-brainer. If it's a trivial problem but an expensive solution, it's really going to be hard to make a sale. So find significant problems that lots of people have. And it would be really good as a 4th criteria if the problem is increasing, that is, the problem is growing, either through actual growth of the problem or increasing awareness of the problem. We would like to have the opportunity to have increasing sales as time goes on. And we'd like to have a problem that recurs. That is, you have the problem frequently. The problem keeps popping up. We want a recurring problem because we want to give people lots of opportunities to buy so that when we do approach them about buying our solution, the problem will be fresh in their mind. We'd like to have the problem recur. Criteria number 6 is we'd like the prototype to be relatively easy to build. For example, if our prototype requires us building a perpetual motion machine, well, that could be quite a problem. And so we really want to avoid having to prototype something that's going to be complex or require us to overcome significant technical challenges. And number 7, we'd like to have a business where we can easily and quickly test whether our solution is going to be something that people are willing to buy. We don't want to spend a long time testing because if our solution turns out to be not that useful, we want to have a chance to move on quickly. An example of this might be a street surfacing material where we need to test the street surface for a couple of years before we can be sure whether it's going to work or not. Well, that's not a very good startup because if we get to the end of the 2 or 3 year period and we decide the street surfacing material doesn't work, then we have to start over and find a new business. So ideally what we want is a solution that's relatively quick and easy to test. Okay, these are my 7 criteria for determining whether a business might be a good idea. So just to review the 7 criteria. First of all, we want to find the problem first. We're going to find a solution for the problem and not a problem to fit a solution. Secondly, we want to find a problem that lots of people have. Number 3, we want to find a problem that's important and valuable to solve. It's a problem where people are ideally willing to pay a lot for the solution. We want a problem that's growing, where more and more people are having the problem, and ideally where the problem recurs. It's just not a one and done, but people have the problem in a recurring way. We want a prototype that's relatively easy to build. And then finally, we want to be able to test our prototype quickly. We want to get in and get out. If it's a great idea, we want to know that as quickly as we can. Also, if it's not a great idea for a business, we want to learn that quickly before we spend a lot of money chasing this solution and chasing the market. Okay, those are my 7 criteria. Now I'd like to share with you an example idea for a startup and exercise these 7 criteria. Now I think this is a really good idea for a startup. I'd love to see someone solve this problem in a useful way, especially as it applies to small businesses and to individuals. Now the problem that I'm referring to is the problem of misdirected email messages. And I think we've all done this, where we've addressed email messages and autocomplete has added the wrong recipient to our email address line. And so instead of sending the message to John Dover, we end up sending the message to John Doe. And we didn't really want John Doe to get it. And in fact, it could be a problem if John Doe gets the message that was intended for John Dover. So the problem is typing in the wrong name on email messages. The solution is some way to trap that name before the email message gets sent out. Now there's several ways to do this. And there's at least 3 companies that I'm aware of that have some form of solution to this problem. But I can tell you that there's problems with each of these. One of the companies, for example, only solves the problems for PCs, but doesn't solve the problem for Macs and for other devices. A second company requires that you have at least 100 users. They need a network of 100 users that commonly talk to each other in order to train their software. So I think there's a real opportunity here to build a simple program that small organizations or individuals could use to help prevent them from sending emails to the wrong recipients. Okay, so let's test this out. First of all, there is a real problem. It's more than obvious that if you send an email message to the wrong person, it's likely to be a problem. And the second criteria is met because a lot of people, we all have this problem. Everybody who sends email messages has this problem. And communication is hard enough without sending messages and documents to the wrong people. And looking at criteria number 4, it's a growing problem. The more people who use email, the more messages that are sent, the bigger the problem is going to be. And this is a problem that recurs. It's not a one and done. Just because you've sent a message to the wrong person once, that doesn't mean you're going to be inoculated somehow from repeating the same problem again in the future. And I think this would be relatively easy to prototype. So this is probably going to be a rules-based piece of software where you can try out a couple of rules. Maybe the rule is that if you send to 4 people and one of the 4 people has a domain name that's different from the other 3, that you just check and ask the sender, hey, did you mean to include the editor of the local newspaper when the other 3 recipients on your email message were colleagues of yours in your business? And then you can practice on a couple of these rules just to see if the program works as you think and whether this would be a solution that your target market would be interested in buying from you. Finally, is this a solution that's relatively easy for you to test? And I would say probably yes, because you could line up some testers and electronically publish some software to them to let them give it a try and see if it works for them. Okay, that's really all I have to say today about criteria for choosing a startup company. If you've got some other ideas or maybe some other ideas of great startups, put them in the comments section below. We'd love to read about them. Thanks so much for watching today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time.